Hello, beautiful people. I'm about to go on a Halloween thing, so that's why I'm dressed this way. But I just had an awesome Metaphors of Movement practice session. All participants allowed me to put this on YouTube, but it was a really great session with a lovely lady called Alli. She hadn't done anything about Metaphors of Movement and she decided to come along. So if you're interested, curious about Metaphors of Movement, feel free to come join the practice, links below. But have a look, enjoy. It was a beautiful session. See you at the next one.
So this whole thing that has brought you into here, I'm going to pin you just so I can see your own face. Um, what's it like?
Okay, so normally I would want to say it's a bit of a roller coaster of an
It's a
adventure.
roller. Oh, tell me about this roller.
Yes. Uh, I'm going to pin it as an emotional roller coaster of an adventure that if I go back several years,
No, 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 no. It's a roller coaster. What's left?
uh, I'm very visual. I'm going to say the sea.
Nice, nice. I
I'm a
love
very
that.
visual
The
person.
sea. The sea. What's right?
Dark. It's forest, darker, pine like pine trees.
Lots of them, right?
Yeah,
It's darker. Okay. What's in front?
not sure. It's kind of, I'm ready to go up and I'm just not quite sure what's in front. Can't see it yet.
What's in
I can
front?
see blue sky, but I can't tell you beyond that. It's like the crest going up of the roller coaster, just blue sky, and I wouldn't know anything else.
What's behind?
Um, Probably a tangle of roller coaster.
My drawing is horrific, just saying. Um, what's up?
Mm. Blue sky so far, and then
Beautiful.
night sky with stars.
Okay. And what are you standing on?
The track of the roller coaster.
You're standing on the track of the roller
Yeah,
coaster.
straddling.
Oh, okay. I drew that better than I thought. Beautiful. All right. So, as I said, our drawing is really bad, but is it anything like this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
There's a quick one, Kathleen. So if I'm to show someone, I would then just talk through each of them just to clarify, just to make it
okay.
really crystal
So,
clear.
there you are, strapped on top of the roller coaster, and the sea is left, and
Yeah.
what's right is the dark pine forest, and what's in front of you is the sky, and it goes back to the sky, but then it gets dark, and
Yeah.
you're standing on that. And what's
Yeah.
up? Sky.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
dark.
It's almost like the sky. It
Yeah.
kind of it meets it's like a blanket of blue, stops, goes straight into the night sky above.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, you can see what's left, and it's you're up there. You're riding high. In fact, you're on top of the world. And sometimes what is right for you, you can't really see the forest for the trees. It's awful dark.
Mhm.
And there's a tangled mess behind you.
Yep.
Yeah, and basically you're looking at the skyline. which is kind of interesting. Anybody else help me out here?
My mind does work in strange ways, by the way.
I love it.
Totally.
It's a beautiful thing. We need that.
I am really visual. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of like, I think I'm interested in this.
And you should be because you're really good.
Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so I'm really sorry. I'll cough the whole way through.
Help me out, Tanya, Dale, anybody?
I wanted to clarify, you're standing on the track and you said you were buckled? Did you say you were buckled
Strapped in. Yeah.
to the track itself?
I'm kind of like I'm straddling, you know, the two bars of the track. I would be like planted on them. I'm fixed on them.
Right, so you are on track. So you're not like in a roller coaster car. You're actually
No.
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
Oh,
you
that's
are on
right. She is
track.
on track. That is. That's
You
great.
are on
Yeah.
track, although we're not sure where you're going. You might just end up back where you started.
Yeah.
Be going anywhere.
And what's in front? Just more roller coaster track?
It's just more track, and it's so it goes like that and then up, but I can't
Okay.
see up to the next hump.
Right, yeah, because you're facing a lot of up and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I chip in with something? Just out of curiosity.
Go for it.
So I have a fear of roller coasters. The bit that I don't like, I'm fine going up. It's being on the top. And it's that moment where you drop down. That's the big panic for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that kind of feeds into it at all.
And that'd be a hell of a letdown.
As a quick question, Ali, you said that you're planted on the roller
Yeah.
coaster.
Yeah.
Are you standing on it, or are your feet
Standing.
in any way attached to it?
Right, okay, so I would say I'm standing on it. They're not buckled, so that
Okay, so your feet can move.
they can, but kind of like psychologically out of fear, I wouldn't move them,
Got that.
is what I would say. So yeah, they physically could move, but I wouldn't move them.
Cool. Any other thoughts, ladies?
It's like an old school roller coaster with those like, or is it more contemporary?
No, old school.
Right. So you it's almost like you're walking the plank over and over and over again.
Pirate theme. Nicely
Ah,
incorporated. Nicely incorporated.
You've got
Yeah,
the
look at
seat to
you.
the left.
Okay, cool. There's a few more idioms I'd come up with. Okay, but thinking back to the last session we talked about, Tony. So this is an artificial elevation.
Right.
So I'm going to say, Ali, that this is a lifelong problem. Cool. So if you want to transition to the lifelong problem context, Tonya, or yeah, Tonya,
Tanya,
do you want to
you
give that?
go ahead. You transition to that lifelong content.
Cool, because then we can see how they both interact.
okay. So yeah, we can tell based on the type of metaphor that you have shared with us here that this is a lifelong problem. And that means that connected to this is going to be some relationship to your family and what it was like for you as a child. So that's our next question, our collective our next question is, what was your family like, or what was childhood like for you?
Genuinely, it was a lovely childhood. Lived with mum, dad, older brother, 8 years older than me.
And what was it like?
In terms of metaphor, you're on about now, aren't you? I think. It was right. It's sunshine. It's bright colours. It's
What's to your left?
grass,
And what's to the right?
trees again, but oak trees. Not as dark. I can see between them.
What's in front?
An open road. Just a long straight road.
And what's behind you?
The road, but when it hits my side, it blurs.
What are you standing on?
The road.
The road. And
Uh,
what's to the right? Sorry?
The right is grass.
More
Very
grass.
bright green grass.
Right. Okay. What's up?
Okay.
No container.
What's up? Did you say what's up?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
Open blue sky, white clouds. Very fluffy.
Okay, cool. So here's how I would deal with this. So,
Mhm.
Ali, we're looking to elicit a very specific type of information which you haven't given us.
Right.
I know it's your fault, right? But essentially, so we've got an artificial elevation, we've got this roller coaster that's going up and down.
Yeah.
And then we've done quite a nice transition into, okay, but we're going to talk, we know, what's your whole family like? And you're like, oh, it was lovely, it was great. So it was like walking down a path, it was quite free, it was quite open for you, right?
Mhm.
But the roller coaster is a problematic situation.
Mhm.
So what I think she's done is she's described her general perception of her childhood, which isn't necessarily bad, right?
Mhm.
And what we're looking for isn't necessarily bad. But essentially, the position you've got yourself on a roller coaster actually keeps you safe and keeps you outside of the outside world. It keeps you away from people. It keeps you protected. And that's what the family normally serve as a purpose for, right? But when we're outside in the world, people can hurt us. So a lot of people sometimes are like, well, how, like, if I'm to find my way in the world, if I'm to stop people from hurting me, stop people from impacting me, sometimes we find ourselves going up in the world, if that
So
makes
are
sense.
you saying that's linked to the elevation?
Yeah. So the
Okay,
fact that you're elevated is actually stopping you from being grounded and down to earth.
yeah.
And there will be another potential container metaphor. As we haven't got one, we could try and elicit another one and try and push for it.
Yeah.
Or we could just try and do the elevated thing, getting her to sit down, depending on context.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do, ladies? What option do you want to explore?
What was option one?
Okay, so I'll go through what I would do,
Okay.
if you want. Okay, cool. Cool. So, Ali, this roller coaster that you've got, I draw my own pictures because I like a good picture. Essentially, you're on the rails. You're going up and down. Essentially, you're up there, you're up in the air. People look up to you. What's right for you, I mean, is a little bit dark. It's quite natural, but it's quite dark, quite dense what's right for you. And you can really see what's left for you. But the trouble is, you're all up in the air. And the other thing is, as much as you're on track, it's not your track. It's a roller coaster, so there should be a cart on the track. So realistically, as much as you don't know where you're going and it's a bit nervous you taking steps forward, there's a high chance you're going to get run down. This thing could crush you, and you're so focused on what you're looking forward to, it could come from behind you and it could kill you.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an awfully safe place to be. You are up in the world, you know. So your family, that situation, what's that like? Your upbringing, tell me what that's like.
Right. I would say it's like, it's going to sound
Yeah.
crazy, a bunch of stuffed toys tied together with a ribbon.
Okay, and where are they relative to you?
I'm in the middle of it.
So you're tied to the toys.
Yeah, I'm in the middle.
So you're in the middle.
Yeah,
Where
and
are
then
they tied?
imagine on
Is
a
it?
load of teddy bears round and then a big ribbon tying them.
Oh, so they're all the way around you.
Yeah, yeah, so yeah, I'm in the middle, teddy bears all the way around, big teddy bears the same size as me.
Okay, and there's like a rope tying around all of them.
Yeah, quite tight so that it's pulling it in, you know, like when you see cartoon bales of hay and they do
Right.
that. That's it.
So that's essentially we like that, like that, like that. Your head's there, and then you've got
Yeah.
all these teddy bears around
That's it.
like that. Cool. Teddy bear, teddy bear, teddy bear, teddy bear. Okay, cool. So differential, she's directly associated with metaphor through idiom for all that pacing, and then we directly go into context. Obviously, we had some interim. Cool. Does anyone want to carry on from teddy bear?
And what's to the left as you're ribboned in with all these bears?
Uh, uh, I'm in the middle. It's just bare fluff. It's bare arms, bare limbs,
Yeah. And what's to the right?
bare limbs,
And what's in front?
bare limbs,
And behind?
bears.
And what are you standing on?
Oh, I think ground. I think just tarmac. I think, but it doesn't feel like tarmac. It kind of feels empty, like an empty space underneath. But my feet are on something.
How far does that thing extend in front of you?
But I can't see in front of me. Too many teddy bears.
It's quite unbearable, isn't it? Or is it the opposite of being unbearable? Overbearing. Holy.
It's a lot to
Um,
bear. Bear and forebear.
what's up?
Blue sky.
But you have your bearings.
All around me. In all directions.
You're surrounded by everything that you have to bear. Okay. And
But
you're
that'd
So
be
upside down.
that'd
So
be a
you're not
burden.
really moving anywhere. It's probably hard to make any progress in this situation.
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's a burden because she's not carrying it specifically.
Yeah.
But it's strapped to her, sort of.
Yeah. So we have
It's
that
a
partial
partial container.
Yeah, partial container. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so who wants to tell Ali about her upbringing?
Well, at face value, it probably looked quite fun and quite cozy and quite cuddly. And at the same time, there was a constriction there. You had to be in the middle of what was put around you, and that might have been a hard thing to bear. It would have been hard to make steps for yourself, do what's right for yourself, and even see what's left just because of this, because of what you were surrounded by.
Yeah, it was very overbearing.
Yeah. All tied together like that, it's hard to, know who you are as an individual and what you're standing on, even and what you're standing for. So it's like a collective, what would a group of bears be called?
That's a good question.
Yeah, what's a group of bears?
Hang on. I should know this.
I know it's not a murder. It's not.
I remember the good ones. Oh,
That could go
ducks,
dark.
ducks on water is a paddle of ducks. A paddle of
Oh,
ducks.
I love that. Yeah.
It's called
Cool.
a sloth or a pack. Or a
Yeah.
mall. Or a mall or a sleuth.
Wow. So there's lots. So yeah, so you're just kind of part of this pack mentality and hard to untie yourself from that.
Mm.
How would you describe Ali's outlook?
Um,
Bearable.
short
Yeah.
sighted, like yeah, she doesn't get a long view. It's very short.
Yeah. So it's a pretty comfortable position you're in. I mean, you do have quite a comfortable outlook, but it's pretty short-sighted.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, if this was my client and my session, what I would do is I would transition from this. I wouldn't do the intervention yet. I mean, we haven't done Strange Road and all that jazz. But what I do is I then get my elevation. And what I do is this is how you grew up. This is how your life was. But then in life, we can't get all our needs met by the family. So we have to go into the big wide world. But in the big wide world, it can be quite scary. We can risk getting hurt. Now, some people who are that cozy, that mollycoddled, that comfortable might find it quite threatening. Because if you think there's a lot of padding in this situation, you've got a lot in between you and other things. So some people put themselves up there. They get out of harm's way. Some people say they're on track. I mean, I wouldn't say this, but other people might say they're stuck up. So the way you deal with being outside of this environment is you put yourself on track in a pretty unsteady position and you don't really know where you're going. So this is when we can start. Now we've got a few different variations. We can see how they could potentially link together. Cool. So I do something like that and then I might go from intervention. Cool. Who wants to carry on? Intervention, Strange Road, whatever you fancy.
Yeah, Alli. So in real life, as as you're in real life, how do you cope with this in real life? The tide, we're going back to the tide by the bears here. In real life, what's your strategy?
Going back to the bears.
Yeah, when you hear tied up, bears all
Yeah.
around. Wait, how'd you deal with that in real life?
Probably try to look up and breathe.
Yeah.
Get from there.
Is that in real life or is that in
Oh,
the
yeah.
movie?
So hang on a minute. So asking me just a normal question. How do you cope in real life?
So this situation where you got bears
Yeah.
all around, rope
Yeah.
tied around the middle, in real life, how'd you deal with that? In real life?
I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry.
No, the situation that's maybe a little bit suffocating, comfortable,
Yeah.
but slightly suffocating. How do you deal with that in real life?
So in terms of that, to
Yeah.
look up and breathe.
Oh, so in real life, you experience that, and you go. That's what you do.
To me, when things get a little bit claustrophobic, if you like, have I misunderstood? Or that's what I think you mean.
So when you feel things are getting claustrophobic, you look up and breathe. That's what you do.
Like, okay, yeah.
Okay, cool. Can you ladies see why I question that?
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. So
I can't. I hate to be awful. Why did you question it?
okay, so if I was in this position with a fuck ton of bears around me, I'd feel constricted like I couldn't breathe. And I would put my head up and breathe. Right? A lot of the time, that's what I would do in the metaphor. Because I don't actually know what this is like in real life. I'm like, how many people do you see in real life? I was working with a woman and she's like, I just lie on the floor, spread eagle and breathe. I'm like, do you? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you actually get on the floor? She's like, yeah. I'm like, sweet.
Okay.
Just because it's not, no offense, Alli, it's not a normal behavior one might see in reg. So I question it because it feels to me, or my sense is, she's imagining she's in the metaphor, how she's trying to solve it there. I want to elicit her real life strategy. Like some people might say procrastinate. It could be, oh, I panic. It could be, I just go under the stairs and cry. But for her, when she's feeling suffocated like that, she puts her.
I do
So-
because I meditate, and what I do is I always sit and I'm up and I'm breathing up.
Okay, so she doesn't look up and breathe. She meditates.
Okay, got you.
That's part of her meditation, but
Yeah.
she meditates. But what's interesting, if you think about the metaphorical world and how we can do interventions based on the structure of metaphor, why does she sit down, put her head up and breathe? Probably she sits down because of that, and then she puts her head up to breathe because of that. So her way of coping to deal with this constriction, that's the way she fixes it, which is really brilliant to see. And I've never seen it as beautifully illustrated. Very well
Yeah,
done.
it's quite freakish actually, the way you say that. But the way I do cope with things is I need to be grounded. That's, just you talking, it says like, no, you sit down like, yeah, I do actually. I sit down, I need to be grounded in the moment. I need to be up, breathe in here, but grounded.
Carry on, Tanya.
So, Alli, imagine that you and I were walking down this strange road, and I will tell you, we know it's a very strange road because we come across this woman who's stood there, surrounded by stuffed bears as big as her, all wrapped together in a ribbon. And we say, okay, don't worry. We actually have seen this before. We've dealt with this before. We know exactly what to do. All you have to do in this situation is just sit down, put your head up, meditate, and breathe. Would that be good advice?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Is there any more helpful, more reasonable advice you might offer this poor, unfortunate lady?
To me, that the reason why I would say that's not good advice, because she can't sit down with the bears. Can't sit down with the bears. They're there, they're stopping me from sitting down, therefore I assume they would stop her from sitting down.
Okay. Any other different advice that you might offer?
She either needs to crawl out and up or somehow or other break out that way.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So we'll update the advice. We'll put that on the roster. Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
So
Continue.
okay. So again, we know here that this is what it was like as you were being raised in your family. And what we know about this is that this is nothing that is anyone's fault. This is not anything of your choosing. It's not a personality flaw, a character defect, or any kind of weakness. It is actually your identity within your family. And no matter what you would have done throughout your life, no matter what action you would have taken, you would have ended up in the same place. Because in these types of family systems, there's these checks and balances that keep everything in homeostasis. So you take an action and then the system reacts to keep you in your place. And so because of all that, what I'm about to ask you to do is potentially a little bit unfair, and you might not like it, and you might not like me for asking you to do it, but I hope you try it. What I'm going to get you to do, you can close your eyes if you'd like to. You can close your eyes, and as you're there between all those bears tied up, I want you to grow up. And I mean that literally. I want you to grow up, up, up. I want you to grow up and out of it, because it's time to grow out of this situation. Grow up and tell me what you notice.
So if I grow up, my head's now poking above the bears.
Keep growing, and tell me what happens.
Okay, so I'm growing upwards, but I'm also growing outwards. The ribbon around the bears is starting to break, fray, snap. The bears are going to go up like that. And now I'm out in the outside world.
Okay, keep growing. And how does that change things?
Okay, so if I keep growing, whereas before I knew there was like a ground beneath me. Well, I felt there must be a ground beneath me because I was standing on something. But I also before said, but it felt like a little bit like there was empty space also beneath. Now, if I grow to that extent, Now I feel, like I said, when I'm on the roller coaster, my feet feel they're like planted, but I couldn't move them. If I wanted to, out of fear, now my feet are planted on the ground, on grass. The bears are scattered all over, roundabout. I'm free of the bears, but I can move my feet. I know that I'm safely on ground, but I can move my feet, I can walk, I can step over the bears.
Nice. Now what I would do is I would show the roller coaster and I'm going, what's this like now?
Mm.
So Kathleen, over to you.
Mhm.
Unmute, my dear.
So Alli, tell me, what's this like?
Sorry, it cut out then. Say it again. Sorry.
This like now?
Okay, so still, by that, do you mean as in what's that scene like again to me?
What's it like now that you're out of the bears?
Um, okay, now to me, that would be grass. Grass. There's not another, so there isn't another whoop, but I am still on the crest of the roller coaster. My knees would be softer. Still trees over here, but more open trees. And behind, it just goes down like that. It's not a tangled roller coaster anymore. So basically, it's like a bell-shaped curve, and I'm on the top of the bell-shaped curve. If that makes sense, as if that's the roller coaster. And
Okay.
it's blue. There's no night sky. It would be blue.
How does that change things?
I can see clearly now in front, I would say. And to the right, it's not as foreboding, that's for sure. The behind doesn't feel as confusing because that tangled mess of a roller coaster's gone.
Wow.
Would anybody do anything else here?
I'm still wondering about the bell-shaped curve.
How so?
Well, it looks like somewhat of an elevation, yet somewhere she's right in the middle of average, which is pretty good, actually, to be fair.
In all
When you
honesty,
said right in the middle of average, I was like, oh, that could be positive. I mean,
That's what I'm
you're
saying.
right in the middle of
led with
average.
that.
Oh, you're right in the middle of average.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's what I want in life. Completely.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's presenting now more as like a natural elevation is.
You're still on a roller coaster.
It's still a roller coaster. It just happens to be as if it's before it was like tangled mess, whoop, and then going back up, so I couldn't say. Now it's just
Now it's
bell-shaped
just
curve.
this bell-shaped curve, and you're
Okay,
right in the middle.
okay. I totally
It's still a roller
misunderstood that. I
coaster,
thought, okay.
but it's like I'm at the top of the bell-shaped curve on that
So-
roller coaster.
So
That's
essentially, it's no longer a bit of a mess in the background. The background is quite clear. It's quite clear where you've
Yeah.
come from, and there's a clear way you're going to, but you're still stuck up and maintaining your position in a place where you're not actually the ideal thing to be supported.
I mean, you're just average.
Yeah. I would potentially get her to sit down. Don't sit down, Alli. Let someone else do it. But yeah, I would, because she's still. So the reason is she still. Think about it, right? If you were standing on a roller coaster, even if it's bell-shaped curve, even if I'm average, right? Pretty scary, potentially. Heights, potential fear of falling, potential anxiety. So, as much as we've maybe cleared some things, she still lacks choice because any step could be quite painful, quite dangerous, stuff like that. So she sounds a lot better. But ideally, we want to see what happens when she grounds herself a little bit more to see if that changes things. That's where I would go next.
So I do wonder, Allie, if you were to sit down and tell me what happens.
Okay. So if I sit down, cross-legged, I would slide down the roller coaster onto the grass. Like a child's slide. It would be like going down a slide onto
It's a
the grass.
letdown.
Yeah.
It's a letdown.
Yeah.
How does that change things?
I feel a lot safer for a start on the ground. To be honest, amongst the grass, amongst nature. And I would still be, when I slid down, I would still stay cross-legged on the grass.
Well, you're not going to be able to make too much movement that way.
No.
You'd be
Kind of
grounded. You'd be grounded, but you'd be sitting on your head.
Yeah, yeah. I've got it's now grass all around. I've got the open space.
So now you're out standing in the field, or out sitting in the field.
I'm sitting in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting in it.
Mm.
Roller coasters behind. Well, what was the roller coasters behind? I'd be sitting at the bottom of it as if I've come down the slide, cross-legged and comfortable.
You are comfortable or you are uncomfortable?
I'd be comfortable.
Would be comfortable. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't feel scary. Yeah.
Any thoughts? Tonya? Cool. So right now, I mean, depending where we're at, yeah,
She's
yeah, Catherine.
She's sitting. There's. What do we do? I mean, she's just sitting.
Okay, cool. So what I would do in this situation, okay, cool. So it sounds like you've come back down to earth. I mean, it seemed a bit childish potentially. It was a little bit of a slide down. But yeah, you're sitting there. I mean, you're in a field, but the trouble is that's a comfortable position. And comfort is all good. And sometimes we need to be comfortable. Sometimes we need to take a moment to ground ourselves. Totally down with that. But my question is, Ali, you still ain't going anywhere. So I'm not going to tell you where to go because that's not my job. But the point is, Ali, what do you want to take a stand for? What are you willing to take a stand for? Because for you to actually get somewhere, to go somewhere, to reach somewhere in your life, you've got to take a stand for something. Now, I don't know what you want to take a stand for, but if you do decide to take a stand, you can then finally decide to take steps.
Mm-hmm. I would feel comfortable getting up and walking forward, and I would. But I also feel equally as comfortable staying here, cross-legged.
Cool. So my next question, so this is my next consideration. So might finish the session depending, right? She's in a field. We have nothing else. She's given us no other information, which makes me think that she doesn't see that. Think about it. She's been on a roller coaster. She hasn't seen a direction. The next invitation I would consider is, where does she actually want to go? She now is able to take steps. She is now able to have agency in her life, but she doesn't actually know what she wants because based on, I'll tell you how I'd explain it to a client. So, Ali, there's a thing in this, all this metaphor stuff, which is how can we achieve a goal, achieve an outcome? And personally, I've always really struggled with goal setting. Have you ever struggled with goal setting?
I'm a little bit anal, to be honest.
Some people enjoy that. But the question is, right? Look at that. I love a
Oh my
cheeky
God.
bit. Love a cheeky bit of smut. But, for example, if I always really struggled to create goals in my life, I'm very much a day by day kind of guy. But I got to a stage where I really put on a lot of weight. I was starting to get really fat. So what I did is I was like, fuck it. It was actually, I think it was December 27th. I didn't do the 31st of December because that don't work. I signed up for a marathon, half marathon actually, like I'm not doing a marathon. Signed up for a half marathon in order to lose weight because I wanted to look ripped, like those really sexy beach body kind of guys. Still getting there. But anyway, so I did that and I trained and I trained and I trained. I mean, I'd say it a lot. Didn't train as much as I'd like to, but I lost a lot of weight and I did a half marathon. But I still had a bit of a belly. I'm like, that's what I wanted to get rid of. So actually, I realized I didn't want to lose weight. I wanted to get more muscular, get more tone, stuff like that. So I had some friends in Prague and they basically do this Spartan event every year. Essentially, it's not the Spartan event you think. It's not like the whole muscular thing. Basically, they dress up as Spartans, do some sort of exercisey stuff in the morning, but essentially it's an opportunity to be topless and toned and walk around being all impressed and stuff. I'm like, that's what I wanted to do. So I set myself that the goal for the following year, and I went to the gym. I worked hard. I worked hard. Now I didn't act. I mean, I got there. I did that. I actually got food poisoning or an illness the day of. So I did like the first 2 hours, and then I vomited everywhere. So I had to go home. So that's another story. But the point is, I lost weight because I knew where I was going to go. Now, I've never been a strong fan of real long-term plans because I've always struggled with that. But what I did is I started to think, well, where do I actually want to go? Because if I'm picked a direction and I know where I'm going to go, it doesn't necessarily it's not going to be a straightforward path. It could wind left and right. But it's really okay. It starts me moving in a direction of something that I actually want to achieve. Now, there's nothing wrong with you sitting in your field with your grass all around. That might be the right thing. It might be right for you to just take a moment because you've been up in the air for this long time. I mean, there have been lots of up and downs and you've been on very unstable support. But one thing you could consider is, well, if you just sit down for a moment, if you come grounded down to earth, you can decide, okay, well, what do I want to take a stand for and where do I actually want to go? Because then you can actually proactively start to take steps in a direction that you would find interesting or useful for you. So that's what I'd say to a client. Basically, give them the overview. Now, in metaphor, I might do this as well. We've got 4 things we consider. We've got direction, distance, mode, and rate. Until you do level 6, and then there's an extra category. But direction is, what do you think direction is, Ali?
Forward, backward, side to side, that kind of thing.
Like where are you going? Like, okay, which direction, yeah? Distance is how far away it is. Like, how long will it take to get there? Mode is how we get there. So, for example, are you going on foot? You're going by a car? You're going in a roller coaster? Roller coasters, by the way, just go round and round in circles. And rate is how fast. So realistically, I look at you sitting there on your little field. As I say, nothing wrong with that. And you say you're happy to take a stand. So we know how you can walk there. That's good. How fast you can walk there. You can take steps to get there. But this is the question. Where are you going? Where are you aiming for? What do you want to get to? Obviously, depending on the client's challenge issue. So I'd walk through that, teaching them about it, and then they can start to consider where they might want to go. I'd probably leave that session there. But yeah. Anything else? Any other observations, questions from the team, or?
Yeah, because you wouldn't have her take steps because that's beyond what existed in the metaphor at this point.
It depends where she is. I mean, I would probably leave her, like, because we dealt with quite a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I would get her to take a step, possibly take a stand wherever she's at. But she seems quite content to sit down, which is also fine. But I'm educating on the pros and cons, and I would leave it there.
Yeah.
Because then she can choose, but she's aware of that. Ali, how was that?
Pretty enlightening, to be honest. Yeah, it certainly makes me think about things in a slightly different way. In terms of my life, a lot of the things, to be honest, all of you have said, I could go, yeah, I could take that. That makes sense. You know, I think you look back, don't you, always through your past. And I did have a nice childhood. I'll never, I'd never dispute that. But there's always going to be, for me, probably a little bit of rose-tinted glasses. I like to feel safe, normal, content. I don't like being out of my comfort zone. Um,
Did you just see what she did with her hands?
oh
Out
yeah,
of my comfort zone,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is outside of container, she elevates herself.
yeah, yeah. That's completely true. You know, the idea, the image of being wrapped up in these teddies, that's my family. Quite cozy there. It
Yeah.
feels safe, it feels secure. That's why when I reflect on it, I think, yeah, okay, makes sense. From
Two,
what seems a very bonkers image. Yeah,
and this is why I love the work and I teach the work. And
yeah,
I've never applied as much to myself as I do with this stuff because it just seems so abstract and weird. But then when you actually do it, you're like,
completely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
two minor points for feedback for you, Tony, just things that I would do slightly differently. So really like the whole growing up spiel. So the first thing is I would say say that it represent a partial container. And what a partial container represents is the rules.
Oh, okay.
The rules that are designed to keep us safe.
Mm.
So I would normally go through that more specifically. You got to grow up, and then when you said, and what happens, she'd grown up and grown out of it. You then said, keep growing and how that changes things. I didn't think it was
I
needed,
caught
but
that.
yeah.
Me too. I agree.
I also know why she might struggle to grow out of this. Because if she were to, it would literally be unbearable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I was just gonna say, I'm so close to my family, and it felt almost like wrong to grow up too much and leave them scattered on the floor.
you see, this is the other thing, right? So this is how I would talk about the rules. So might give it depending, especially the fact that she gave her that really fluffy, nice metaphor about her family, and she says she loves them, right? So what I do is what this represents, or what this represented, past tense presupposition of change. What this represented was essentially the rules. And it's not necessarily the rules that your family put upon you, but when we are born, we are literally born into a certain family, a certain cultural structure. Like you're from Yorkshire, they've got certain norms, certain ways of living, ways of being. And those are the cultural, social, and familial rules that are there. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with them, but sometimes they can keep us trapped, they can keep us constrained. So I'm not saying to put distance between you and your family by any means possible, but in this situation, it probably feels a bit suffocating and you really feel like you can't take steps because it's obviously context dependent.
I
So
see,
I might,
I see truth in that. I do. I do.